Welcome to the Iyun Podcast, an in-depth look at chareidi society, Israel, and the Jewish people. I am your host, Ari Koretsky, and I invite you to join us as we confront the challenges, joys, and possibilities of Torah-centered living in an evolving world. The Iyun Podcast. Think again. Welcome back, friends. Tuvia Tenenbom is certainly a colorful character. He's a longtime journalist and author. He's also a theater director, playwright, as well as a mathematician, a computer scientist, quite a polymath, and joins us today to talk about his latest book, Careful, Beauties Ahead, My Year with the Ultra-Orthodox. Tuvia actually grew up in Bnei Brak from a very deeply connected and richly infused chareidi home. His father, very close with the Chazon Ish and other great gedolim. He himself left that path, and he'll describe that somewhat extensively. Nonetheless, he returned recently to live in Mea She'arim primarily for a year, to write about this community, and ended up emerging with a very overwhelmingly positive impression of the society. And he shares that in his book, and he shares that with us on the show today. In this climate where we've been discussing such controversial, heavy topics, and also in which we've constantly been evaluating possible opportunities for evolution, for development, for change, it's quite important, from my perspective, to appreciate all the beauty, as Tuvia says, beauties ahead, that inheres in that community, all of the gifts, all of the blessings, what desperately must be conserved, regardless of any changes that may develop over time. A slight trigger warning of sorts. Tuvia definitely has his own take on Jewish theology, or on the essence of what Judaism is meant to be. And I won't say I endorse the theology per se. I certainly endorse his curiosity. This is designed for a mature audience. He tends to be a bit antinomian in his disposition. And of course, we could have an entire episode or more just evaluating and critiquing his philosophy, as well as his critique of yeshivas and of contemporary Yiddishkeit. However, in this episode, I wasn't really debating. I was hopefully drawing out his own story so that we could better appreciate his embedding himself within the Mea She'arim world and the book that emerged from that process. So enjoy my conversation with the very colorful Tuvia Tenenbom. We're here with Tuvia Tenenbom, the author of a wonderful book, Careful, Beauties Ahead, My Year with the Ultra-Orthodox. And very excited to hear all about that book and how it all came about. How are you, Tuvia?
Hello to you, hello to your listeners. Hope all of you are doing well and happy.
Wonderful. Now, Tuvia, it's a really, really interesting book title, and I'm excited to hear how that came about. But before we arrive there, tell us where you're from, where were you raised, and what was your early upbringing like?
My early upbringing, I was born in the land of Israel, in Boiberik, Bnei Brak. If you know Rehov Rashbam Street, if
Sure.
you have heard of it, that's in my time when I lived in Bnei Brak, which is an Ultra-Orthodox city, our street was called Kriyat Vatikan, basically the Vatican, because that's where the biggest concentrations of rabbis, of poskim, the ganze Masse, were there. And then I moved to Mea She'arim also. I studied there. And then I joined the Israeli army. I was a tank driver. So the first thing I drove in my life is not a bicycle or a bus or a car, but a tank. That's where I learned my driving skills.
I think that's where a lot of Israelis learn their driving skills.
No. Most Israelis, they drive bicycles, they drive Ofnaim, they drive cars. Don't belittle them. And then I came to the United States. I stayed here for quite a few years. For the first 15 years, I studied in various universities, various disciplines, mathematics, computer science, English literature, theater, journalism, was the best. And then I founded the Jewish Theater of New York, and we do a lot of plays here. Then I moved on part-time to Germany. I married my wife, who lived in Germany at the time, and her name is Izzy, and we lived there. And at this moment, I'm also a journalist for a German paper and for an Israeli paper. And I'm also an author of many books. The book you just mentioned, Careful Beauties Ahead, is my 6th in English. There are more in different languages. In general, about 10 different languages books. And that's what it is in a very short way of introducing the little fat me.
Now, growing up, what was your family community-wise? What were they a part of? Was it a particular, were you Hasidic at all, or was you part of a particular sub-community?
My great-grandfather, on my father's side, my great-grandfather, was the Rebbe of Radzin, the Radzin Rebbe in Poland. If you remember that Rebbe, he was the one who came up with the Tcheles.
Sure.
Yeah, so anybody who sees the Tcheles today, it's thanks to him, because Tcheles has not been worn in millenniums. So that was him. On my mother's side, I come from, she was Romanian, and her father was the rabbi of Markulesht, which is a Jewish town, that was totally demolished. I mean, the residents of the town, they were all Jews, by the way. Basically, almost everybody is gone, including her family. So I come from a rabbinical family. My father, when he was a young man, he studied in the Lomze Yeshiva, and he became close to the Chazon Ish. So he became what you call today a Chazon Ishnik. At that time, we didn't call. He was a Talmid of the Chazon Ish. He was a student of a pupil of the Chazon Ish. And they were very, very close. So he sent me to Litvish yeshivas. So that's why I am a partly Hasidic, partly Litvak. It depends how you call it, But yes, I got the good or the bad of both sides.
Where did you learn?
In Cheder, I learned in Tashbar, which is the Tinoikos Shel Beis Rabban. That's Chazonishnik Cheder. And then I studied in Or Israel, if you remember, if you know this yeshiva in Petach Tikva. My rabbi was Rabbi Yosef Rozovsky, the more learned rabbi from Shmuel Rozovsky from Ponovich. Then I went to yeshivas. I studied in different yeshivas, also in Mea She'arim, in Beis Talmud, which existed at that time by Rebbe Schwarzman, and in some more yeshivas at the time. And I skipped 5 grades, so I finished the yeshiva Gdoile. I was in kibbutz, and I was 14 and a half or something like that. And then I didn't exactly agree with my rabbis. We had big disputes about what is the halacha, what is forbidden, what is not forbidden, what is kosher, what is not kosher, the ganze meises. And so I moved out of the yeshiva world, of the Schwarze, whatever you call it, the chareidi yeshiva world. I moved to Merkaz Arav with Reb Tzvi the cook, if you know him. We are very close at the time. And then I thought that in Merkaz Arav, they don't know how to study, because after you learn in the real yeshivas, so to speak, real yeshivas, and you go to Mizrahi yeshiva, as they called it at the time, you say, well, what is this? I went to university I participated in a Talmud class, and I couldn't believe it. I say, this professor know nothing. They weiß nicht from the highest. They know nothing. They don't know how to open a Gemara and study it. I mean, so I went to Esder. I served in the army, and the rest I told you.
So, at what point you cited that you had sort of disagreements? I guess to put it mildly, with the rabbis. What were the major areas?
I guess in around 14 and a half. And I started, my rabbis asked me to say chaburas, to, shiurim or whatever. And I preached differently than them.
In what way?
I disagree in many things. I disagreed on, it's a chutzpah of a young man, of a young boy. I mean, to disagree and telling the Rosh Hashivas, no, you are totally wrong. Um, um, for example, one thing that was at the time was, which is very different now, but at the time, you know, in the chareidi world was very anti-Zionist, you know, and I said, what are you talking about? I mean, we have mitzvah to live in Eretz Israel. Mitzvah Sishuv Eretz Israel is, even today, how can you say no to living in Israel? How can you say it's not a mitzvah? Of course, it's a mitzvah. It's a mefurish. And you know, but the Toisva said, but I said, but the Ritva says Talmid Toya Ksoboy. I mean, whoever said it's not is Talmid Toya, means the Talmid, a student who was wrong, who, you know, Ralat, who is wrong, he wrote it, you know. So at that time, I knew I would come to my rabbis with Shas and Poskim, you know, one on the top of the books, everything open, and I showed it to them. And also the whole thing of Beino Lebeino, the things that a man is not allowed to look to the woman, you know, and I said, no, it's wrong. Here is what the Gemara says. Here is what this says. This is what the Rambam says. This is what the Ramban says. You know, I put the ganze thing, and I pointed to it. And one of the classic answer was, you know, what do you think? You know everything. Don't you think that the Rav Shach knows everything that you show me? You know, and he still disagrees with you. And I said, who is Rav Shach? He's the friend of my father. What are you talking about, Rav Shach? I mean, it's like, you know, all these people are my father's friends. I mean, it's like, I knew them since I was a baby. I mean, it's like some of them I was jumping on their laps. I mean, it's like, hello, what are you saying? I grew up in that world more than you. I don't need you to tell me what Rav Shach says. I don't need you to tell me what the Stipler says. Here's my neighbor. You know, I mean, I was in his house so many times. I mean, it's like, what are you telling me? I mean, it's like, you know, Chaim Kanevsky is a friend of my father. You know, it's like they came to visit us. Rebbe Schwarzman, just even from the Mizrachi, Moshe Tzvineria, the Rav of Bnei Akiva. I said, what are you talking about? I know Rab Moshe. As a kid, he was a good friend of my father. My father had friends all over. So I said, like, my father himself was a Rosh Hashiva. I'm like, what are you telling me? It's like, don't tell me these things. I mean, in the Gemara, you teach us all the time. In the Talmud, you teach us all the time that we should study. And I have done that here. And give you a proof that you are wrong. Don't tell me Rav Shach knows all what you say. I mean, this is not the way to answer a question. You know, if we accept everything, if all the Litvakers decide to be Hasidim and they go what the Rebbe said, why are we in the yeshiva? Why are we studying? If I always say, I ask Rav Shach, no, okay, I can fragen. I can ask whatever you want. I mean, that's what I am here. I am here to study. If you think I'm wrong, show me where I'm wrong. I show it to you. I have all these books. and so we couldn't find an agreement. You know, so that's basically, this is some of the disputes that I had with them. You know,
you chose to
a lot of things I say it's not in the sources. You don't see it in the Talmud. You don't see it in the Tanakh. You don't see it in the Poskim. You don't see it in the Rishonim. You don't see it in the Achronim. There are some shittas. There are some people who say that, some rabbis. But you are cherry picking whatever rabbi you want to form a philosophy that it's not true. You know, and don't tell me the Talmud says the Talmud is not halacha. The Talmud is discussion of hundreds of rabbis. Each one says that the other one is wrong. I mean, that's the beauty of the Talmud. That's the beauty of the Gemara, not agreement. You know, you want to agree on everything. Be a Muslim, be a Christian. You know, go with Jesus, go with Muhammad. You know, don't tell me this is not Yiddishkeit. You want to disagree with me? You argue with me? Argue. You know, and the rabbis were crying and they called my father. And it's like, what are you going to do with your son? So answer him. But he didn't have answers. So I found myself out.
But it sounds like you didn't have answers in the Mizrahi world either.
Yeah, I remember on the Mizrahi, for example, with Tzviya the cook. One time, you know Tzviya the cook, right?
I know who he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So one time I was sitting with him and I asked him opposite question. I asked him, you know, that the anti-Zionists, you know, say that there is three oaths that God made with Israel. And one of them, that they don't fight in order to sit in Eretz Israel, in Israel. I said to him, what do you say to that? He said, he doesn't say. Nowhere. I say it's in Avodah Zarah. In Tractate Avodah Zarah. He says, no, it's not there. So I told him the page number. He said, it's not there. So I said, let's bring a book and see. So I took a book because he had all the Talmud, of course. He had all the Gemaras in his room. And I opened it and I read it. Shloisha words, you know, 3 oaths. And Rabbi Tzviya, the system, it doesn't say it. I said to him, can you look? He said, it doesn't say it. I said, why don't you look? I'm reading it. I'm reading it. Whatever it doesn't say it. So he would argue with me. I said to him, Reb Tzvi, listen to me. I closed the Gemara. I put it back in the shafa, in the shrunk, and in the bookcase, and I said, I'm done with you. And I got up. He grabbed me in the arm, and he said, no, you're not done with me. If you think you are done with me, you're wrong. If you think you are in the middle of the way with me, you are wrong. If you think we even started, you are wrong. I want you to be my chaverusa, my study mate from now on. I said to him, ask your Hasidim to do it, not me. And I left. When some of the rabbis in America said, Rav, he said, Tuvia, are you out of your mind? You know how many people want to be the study mate of Rabbi Tzvi? How can you say no? I said, you'll be a study mate, not me.
You had quite a bit of chutzpah at that age.
I mean, a chutzpah, but that's what I was taught. I was raised to be a rabbi. I was raised to be a Rosh Yeshiva. I was raised to be that. And the way I was raised is you don't just talk from the Weltrein. You don't just say things from the top of your mind. You know, you don't say that. That's why you study. You study in order to find the truth as you think, as you see it, and what Judaism is about. You know, that's the way you are supposed to be. That's what I said. You know, I mean, it's like, then why am I studying? If I have to accept everything that the rabbi says, why am I studying? Why? Why am I studying? What's the point of studying if every time there is a question, I have to go to a rabbi and ask him? What's the point? Even Ribono Shel Olam, even God, it says in the Talmud, you know, listens to his people. And even God sometimes says, Nitzchoni bonai nitzchoni, my children won over me. They got it right, and I got it wrong. If God has the humility, you know, is humble enough to say that, what do you say about Moshe Rabbeinu, the Moses, the lawgiver? What is the biggest trait that he says in the Torah, in Chumash? What was his biggest trait? That he was humble. I say to them, be a little humble. I mean, we are basing our faith on this. If Moses, the lawgiver, can be humble, if God said I was wrong, you cannot say you are wrong. Who are you? Bigger than God?
But it sounds like all of this kind of pushed you away from Yiddishkeit in general, even though your father, it sounds like, supported you or was the role model for you in terms of questioning and, you know, having those sorts of debates.
The question is what does it mean Yiddishkeit? I mean, Yiddishkeit has like 10 different things. I mean, the beautiful things about Judaism, you know, if you want to form a mathematical formula, so to speak, an equation of what Judaism is, Judaism equals a question mark. That's what it is. Judaism means it doesn't mean that you have to study day and night. It doesn't mean that you have to study like repeat like an idiot. You know, for this we have computers that can repeat. You know, in our day and time with technology, we can, you know, every recorder can record everything. That's what it is. The idea of Yiddishkeit is to ask questions.
How did your father react when you didn't choose the path to become a Rosh Yeshiva?
I'll tell you, my father was chareidi, even anti-Zionist. But at the same time, he was the most religious Jew, immersed, believing that I have seen in my life. He said to me after I started studying playwriting and I started becoming a playwright, you know, a theater person, he said to me, Tuvia, since you came to this world, every morning, I would say, Ribono Shel Olam, God in heaven, please make my son Tuvia to be the biggest Rosh Yeshiva and the best Rosh Yeshiva there is. Then you decided not to be Rosh Yeshiva. You decided to be a machzai, a playwright. And ever since that day, every morning, I wake up and I say, God in heaven, Ribono Shel Olam, God in heaven, please make my son Tuvia the best playwright there is. That's immersed chareidi. You know, that's immersed chareidi. Immersed. You know, my sister is Ultra-Orthodox still. One time we went to him before he died, and he looked at both of us, and he said, he pointed at me, he said, you are a believing Jew? And he pointed at my sister and he said, and you are not. And we both looked at him, he said, Daddy, what happened? You are already demented? How can you confuse the Yotzer? How can you confuse it? I'm not even religious, and she is chareidi. My father said, no. He said to me, you always fight God. How can you fight God if you don't believe in it? He said to my sister, you follow the Rabbonim, the rabbis. You don't worship God. You worship the rabbis. You don't even know who and what God is. This is one of the most chareidi people I've seen in my life, my father, all of a sudden. And this is what he said. And I agree with him. I don't agree with him on everything. I don't agree with anyone. I don't even agree with myself on anything, on everything. You know, it's not like I agree with myself. I know that I'm limited. You know, I'm also a human being. I'm not going to live forever. I don't know everything. I wish I did. Not even King Solomon, you know, Shlomo HaMelech knew everything. And he, as it said, he was the smartest man in mankind. But you know what? You have to go and you have to. So to me, this is Yiddishkeit. The Yiddishkeit is knowing and showing humility. Not follow, lead. If you want to follow, be a Christian, be a Muslim, they are very good in following. You don't have to be a Jew. Nobody's forcing you. You live in a democratic world, Baruch Hashem. You can do whatever you want of yourself. You can put yarmulke, you can put a streimel, you can put nothing, you can shave your head, whatever you want. But if you choose already to be a Jew, why not take the beauty of Judaism? The study, the questioning. Look, I came to Mea She'arim thinking, everybody told me that when I get to Mea She'arim, the people over there would throw stones at me. The first evenings you'd come next to my room, under my window, throw stones, and say, Koi fage arois. You know, infidel, get out of here. Get back. This is not what happens. I believe in everything you have to give it a chance and to learn. And by the end of the day, it was good that I did it. We are in Mea She'arim. I was with my wife for over a year and a half.
Okay, good. So before you get into it, Tuvia, I want to understand, how did this idea come about? You were living all over the world. You were doing all kinds of mathematics, computer science, theater, many different things. And when did you decide, okay, I want to spend a year, go back to my childhood, basically, and experience something, you know, a little bit of nostalgia?
Rebbe, it was not my decision. It was not my idea, put it this way. It was not my idea. I didn't wake up one day and said, I want to do this or that, writing a book about this or that. I don't believe in waking up one morning and deciding you want to write a book about anything, because then usually, because you have a bone to grind, you know, you have a reason, you want to prove something. And then you go, you spend all the time to prove whatever your prejudice is. No, it was not my idea. It was the idea of my editor in Berlin, of the German publishing company, as most of the other books, they are my main publisher. They came up with the idea. Said, Tuvia, why don't you go? I said, oh, you pay me my expenses? He said, yes. Will I get money from the book? Yes. Okay, thank you very much. So I can leave. Because in this world, we are not in heaven. I have to live off something. So they paid for it. And they said, okay, go. They didn't tell me what to do. They didn't tell me where to live. They didn't tell me to stay there a year or 2 years or a month. They said, give us a deadline. And by the deadline that you give, that you make, we expect a book from you.
What gave them this idea? What put this idea into their minds? And did they know your background?
Of course. They have published quite a few of my books, including Catch the Jew, you know, The Taming of the Jew, The Lies They Tell. This is I Sleep in Little Rooms. They published some of my books, and my books are, for the most part, bestseller. Spiegel bestseller is in Germany, you know, and a publishing company as an author who is a best-selling author. So of course they want him to publish more and more books. I mean, they make money on me. I mean, and it's also good for the reputation. The more best-selling Spiegel bestseller authors, best-selling authors they have, it's better for the company. And this is a very important publishing company, and they like the idea. So they said, okay, Tuvia, what's going to be the next book? Okay. You have an idea? Yes. By the way, I already signed a contract with them for the next book. The next book is going to be, we are going, my wife and I going to Israel in a month or two. We are going to Israel for the next book. The next book is about the settlements and the settlers. So we are going to live with the settlers. It's like the most hated people on earth, I guess, the ones who are blamed for for the ones who are as the worst of the worst, and we are going to live with them. And I cannot tell you what the book will be about. I mean, it's going to be about the settlers, but what kind of angle it will take, I don't know, because I have to live there and write about it. I'm not the kind of a journalist who goes to a settlement or not even go to settlements and write books about this, write, volumes about the settlement or about the chareidim. So many books have been written about the chareidim from people who don't even speak one word in Yiddish. I mean, it's like, and I've been in Mea She'arim or places like this for about 35 minutes. And they schreiben already bichalach. They already write all kinds of things. This is not me. My Yiddishkeit says, study. Find out the answers on your own. Everybody says that the chareidim are the worst of humanity. I left them. Now my book should be justifying why I left them and paint them the way Haaretz and other papers paint them. Aggressive, violent people. But I believe study. Find out the truth for your own, on your own. So you don't go for 35 minutes. You go for much longer. You go for months and months and months. And you sit with them and you study them. And then you write a book.
So tell me what you did. You rented an apartment in Mea She'arim. What did you do? You just showed up one day and said, Shalom Aleichem. How did you introduce yourself to people?
I showed up one day. I found by chance, I found there is a little boutique hotel with 18 rooms that nobody knows about it. Even if you go on Mea She'arim, before I came, nobody knows where the hotel is because it didn't say outside anything. It didn't say hotel. It's in Tzfania and Tzfania Street and Yecheskel Street, right there next to Kikar HaShabbat, where all the demonstrations, when they happen, start over there. It's the troublemaker spot of Mea She'arim, the wide Mea She'arim. I mean, legally you can call it Kerem Avraham or Geula, but it's across the street from Mea She'arim. And that's the center, the heart, So we went there and I didn't know exactly how to introduce myself to the people. In other books, I introduced myself as a German journalist, which I am. And I went to the Kasbah of the Mea She'arim, I mean, the shuk, the market, was the center of the activity, put it this way, not demonstration, but the center of activity in general. And in the first half an hour that I walked over there, 5 people came over to me and said stuff like, Reb Tuvia, Reb Tuvia, how you doing? Schreibst du neue Bücher? Are you writing about a new book? And what will sein the neue Bücher? What will be the new book? Wegen uns, about us. It's like, oh, yeah. Tuvia, dein Book, Tvoises Hayudi, Tuvia, your book, Catch the Jew, Musik mit Bash, it was sweeter than honey, especially on page 134 and the 7th line. Oh, that's amazing. It's like, I couldn't even believe that they read these things. It's like in my time, chareidi world didn't read books other than the books, approved by the yeshiva. And here they read and they can quote me. So I didn't have to introduce myself. I came there. I remember one time I told us about Mitzvot. It's one of the most kanoim, the most extreme of the extreme. It was Friday night. I'm just sitting. I think nobody knows me. Baruch Hashem. I can just sit and join in prayer with the people and just watch them. And a minute later, a guy comes to me and says, Reb Tuvia, Agit Shabbos, Psachusha Berit, good Sabbath, what an important Jew is here. Tell me, Reb Tuvia, what are you going to do now? Are you going to do to us what you did to the Americans? Because of the book, The Lies It Tell. I mean, they read my books. It's amazing. It was amazing to find out. So I didn't have to introduce myself. I was introduced. They know exactly who I am. They knew that I am not religious. They know that I have a yarmulke over my head to respect them. You come to an Ultra-Orthodox neighborhood, you put a yarmulke on your head. I didn't put any streimel. I mean, they gave me at the end a streimel, but in the beginning, in the streimel, I didn't even have tzitzis. I didn't have any, burnished. A white shirt, dark pants, and a yarmulke, and shleikers, and that's it. And my my Apple Watch, so the children are dying because I have Mickey Mouse. The whole congregation, can we see it? The Mickey Mouse. That's basically where I came. I mean, they know who I am. I'm not religious. They read my books. They read that I don't eat only kosher. I eat kosher too, but not only kosher. They know the ganze Masse. They know everything. And still, respect, love, amazing.
How did you spend your time? What did you do every day? Did you go to various events and functions in the community? Did you interview people?
Of course, interview. I'm Mea She'arim. It's busy all the time. You have so many funerals, you have so many bar mitzvahs, you have weddings, you have engagements, you have the Rebbe's tish, you have so many tishim, you have one tish after the other. I mean, every time there is something happening, you have to go everywhere. But we didn't stay only in Mea She'arim. We went to yeshivas also, Ponevezh Yeshiva, Hebron Yeshiva, Wolfson, Mira Yeshiva. I mean, different groups, I interviewed different groups, different people, rabbis, rabbis. I think it's the first time in history that rabbis grant interviews to journalists or to authors, whatever you call it. And yes, they did. I have interviews with the Rebbe of Toldosaran, the ones with the golden, the canoim of the canoim. I have Shemer Amunim, the Carolina Rebbe gave me an interview. Can you believe it? I mean, it was amazing. Everybody was willing to talk. So it was very interesting. It was very, very interesting.
So what were some of the major takeaways that struck you? It sounds like you were a little bit surprised by some of the things you learned, even though you knew the community from growing up.
Yeah, I mean, I was very surprised. I was amazingly surprised. And you have to remember, because I got a Litvish chinuch, Litvish upbringing, even though I'm Hasidic from background, my father never spoke to me in Yiddish. Ian and my mother sometimes spoke Yiddish, but that's it. We never spoke Yiddish. I didn't speak Yiddish. I know Yiddish when I came to the United States. I stayed a little bit in Williamsburg, so I taught some Yiddish. Then I was in Germany, and in order to get my green card, my permanent green card, Aufenthaltstitel, the permanent one, I had to study German, and otherwise I cannot get a permanent one. And so I studied German when I was in Germany. When I came to Mea She'arim, up to then, I spoke Yiddish maybe 2.5 minutes tops. And then I made up all the things together, what I remembered when my father talks, what I remember from Williamsburg, and my German from Germany, I mixed it all together, and I made my own Yiddish. And the people in Mea She'arim thought that my Yiddish is the best. They call it the Rabbonische Yiddish, the Yiddish of the rabbis that they spoke in ancient times, It's like, and I find myself 12 hours a day speaking Yiddish, and it was amazing to communicate in Yiddish. It's like a new language. It burst out of me. And when we spoke in this language, especially with the Hasidic elements, with the Hasidic groups, you see so much humor. I mean, it's like I wake up in the morning till night, and I'm in Mea She'arim, and I can't stop laughing. I mean, when you say Jewish humor, they are the only ones who actually have it. None of us has it, and to be in an environment that is so funny, so humorous all day long is an amazing pleasure. Not to say about the food, the food is amazing. I mean, dessert gefilte fish is not the gefilte fish you find here or in London. I mean, here it's like drek of the drek. I mean, it's horrible. Over there, the gefilte fish is a gefilte fish, and a kugel is a kugel. And the more kanoim, the more extremes the kugel is better. The best kugel I ever had, the best gefilte fish was in Shemer Amunim. Can you believe it? It was a gefilte fish that only angels in heaven eat. The rabbits there know how to make a gefilte fish. It's not like where you get Walmart, or wherever you buy it. It's like here in America, it comes in jars, Manischewitz or whatever. Even you go to the stores here, you think you get something, it's a frozen schmeckele bekele. It has no tam, and ishreach has nothing. In America, you have no understanding of Jewish food. Nothing. I mean, a gefilte fish, a kugel, it's like Shemer Amunim. You have to know chont. You have to know what a chont is. A chont is not just a dreyakop. It's not just you open the refrigerator, you take everything out, and you put on the pot like the way you do it here. No, there's a ganze teure in a chont. So the best food, the best chocolate babka you can dream of, the best cinnamon babka you can dream of. Nicht in America. Not here, not in London. London, they are so rich. And the gefilte fish tastes worse than the sand, in Tel Aviv, in the beaches. you eat a sense in the beaches in Tel Aviv, it smells better and tastes better than the gefilte fish of London and Manchester. I mean, these Jews, I don't know what they are doing with their money. They are there because of the money in an anti-Semitic country, and the food, only snakes like it because they like scent.
So you enjoyed the food and the humor.
Yeah, I enjoyed the food. Of course, I enjoyed the food. I enjoyed the spirit. I enjoyed the humor. It's an amazing feeling. It's an amazing. Of course, I have some criticism. Some of it is what I said to you in the beginning. And along the same lines. But by the end of the day, it was amazing, and to see they take care of one another. The rich take care of the poor. You can't find a family in Mea She'arim, no matter how poor they are, on Friday night, they don't have a lavish, elaborate, meals together with everything, all the salads, all the gefilte and geschmilte, the meat and the kugels and the cakes and everything. And I find it an amazing community, and I find it amazing people, care for people, care for their own. It's big families, but it works very, very well with the big families,
What did you find were some of the biggest misconceptions that you mentioned? Haaretz, the typical secular Israeli media that depicts the chareidim in a particular way. What are they getting most wrong?
First of all, they think that the community is violent and aggressive. That you go there, people are going to throw stones at you. No. There are some violent elements, yes. They are human beings. In every community, there are some violent elements. Look at the demonstrations in Israel. You might justify them or not justify them, but sometimes they turn into violence. And they are from the progressive part of society. You can have Meshugaim, you have Meshugaim here too. I mean, look at the demonstrations here in New York, the Palestine. I mean, it's like, you see some of them are the most peace lovers. They believe everything in peace, but they would like to kill you, and they try to kill you. So you have violent people all over. I mean, this is number one. Number two, I remember, and when I was there was an article in Haaretz that said that every child in Mea She'arim and environment, meaning all around, you're talking about tens of thousands of families, every child in Mea She'arim, in the greater Mea She'arim, has experienced sexual crime, has been attacked sexually. I mean, how can you take a community of tens of thousands of people and say that all of them, all the children over there, basically this whole community is a community of pedophiles? I mean, even here in New York, which is not a big values, in journalism, but still, if somebody comes, writes for the New York Times, that every child in Harlem is a victim of sexual abuse, that journalist, not only that his article will not be published, you would finish his story with the New York Times. You throw them from all the windows. And here you have it in Haaretz. Not only they did not stop publishing it, they did not say, no, they published it. Not only they did not throw the journalist out, they published his article. How can you take a community of people and say that basically all Mea She'arim is made of pedophiles? And I heard it. Through driving in Israel and being in Israel, it's like, and you live in Mea She'arim with the pedophiles? Excuse me. Where did you get it? Are there pedophiles in Mea She'arim? Of course. There are pedophiles all over. There is no community in the world when you don't have, arable elements in it. Every community has it. But to say that every child, but there are more pedophiles in Mea She'arim than in Tel Aviv, I mean, it's like, hello, excuse me, give me a break. It doesn't exist like that. This is not the way society is built. There's always rotten, you take a bunch of fruits, go to a fairway, and you have the beautiful fruits that I like, the beautiful apples, Fuji. But I have to check because some of the apples inside the box are rotten. It happens. It's normal. Are there some rotten elements? Of course there are some rotten elements. But the majority of the majority of the majority doesn't exist. But to blame them for everything, bad under the sun, pedophilic, violent, thieves, not subhuman. I mean, it's like, how can you do that about people? I'm sorry. And I live there. I know who is making demonstrations. I know this minority. Usually, I know the troublemakers. I can see it. I sit on my terrace, which is right there. on the street of Yecheskel, and I can see already the Meshuggah starts, the one Meshuggah is to the right, and I can hear the voice, I can hear him coming from down the road, and I can know, this is going to be a demonstration today, because he's coming. And he's coming and he starts screaming, BBB, and then some people come for him. And then there are all these American yeshiva students from Mir. They like to have a performance, a theater performance for free. They are joining in, not as demonstrators, but who knows? If you are not there, you don't know. You think so many people. They are, over half of them are Americans from Mir Yeshiva. It's like, they came, they have to be there 1 year. They are bored. They can't play football or play soccer, and they have to do something. So let's turn them, it's like, and all of a sudden you see the reality of what happens. You see some of the demonstrators, big power behind them, or some of the extreme. Some of them don't even live in the area. They live in somewhere place. And some of them, quite a few of them, especially the violent one, are balei tshuva. They used to be criminals before, and they're criminals now. Before they didn't believe in God, now they believe in God, or say they believe in God, but their violent behaviors, they didn't change. So you start seeing, and you see that people who live in the community say, get out of it. Some of them, it's never been recorded, and I couldn't believe it. But I've seen it so many times. When the demonstration starts, and there are some members of the community who actually fight them. They push the demonstrators out. Get out of our neighborhood. Get out. It's Chilul Hashem. What are you doing? Get out, get out, get out. They fight them. Sometimes there are fist fights. Nobody's reporting it. It's amazing.
I'm curious your observations, because you weren't just in Mea She'arim, you were also in the great Litvish yeshivas. You mentioned Hebron, Wolfson, Panovich. What did you experience in those places? And those places, of course, are not as quote unquote extreme or exotic, right, to the outsider. Those are maybe more accessible. Certainly a place like Hebron where they dress well and it's a different kind of culture. What were your observations there? How did it differ and how is it similar?
I sit in Hebron, in 5 minutes, people come to me with cell phones. Can I take a selfie with you? It's like, hello, I love your books. It's like, hello, you're supposed to be the yeshiva bacher. What are you doing here? So I went to Ponovich in Bnei Brak. In my time, if a person dressed like me goes to Ponovich, went to Ponovich, in less than 3 seconds, somebody would come to him and say, Mister, you probably were told to come here, but it's the wrong address for you. Can we accompany you outside? I went to Ponovich and I sit there. I'm in the middle of Beis HaMedrash, the middle of the yeshiva, there are hundreds of students. And I sit, nobody talks to me. So after a while, after a few minutes, two study mates, they're talking to each other, and I start talking to them. And I said, excuse me, guys, is this Ponovich here? As if I don't know. Is this Ponovich here? He said, yes. They say, where are you from? I said, I am from here and from there. They say, what is here and what is there? I say, I am from there and from here. They loved it. This was like for them a yeshiva, a Litvish kind of introduction. They immediately start talking to me, boom, boom, boom. I had a discussion. Then 2 more people came in, another 3, another 4. All of a sudden, after an hour or so, when I left already, I had about 40 or 50 of them accompany me outside in honor of the Choshev guest, of the important guest. I was like, I couldn't believe it. So, yes, I have experienced similar thing in different yeshivas. In Wolfson was amazing. It's like, many yeshivas that I went to. It was a different world than I expected, and different world than I remembered. And it was amazing.
What did you notice about the people in terms of their interests, their attitudes, their qualities? What do you think people need to know about these? Everyone's talking now about the yeshiva bachurim that are, sitting and just not, avoiding participating in society. What did you learn about these, especially these young men?
Very inquiring mind. Let's talk in Wolfson. I came to interview them. Before I know it, I have an article of people, they are very close to each other over there. And before I know it, they start interviewing me. So why did you come to us? What is the reason? Who gave you the name of the Wolfson yeshiva? How did you get here? And what are you planning to write? And how do you do your research? All this he didn't stop to interview me, and I loved it. I put this interview also in the book. Instead of me interviewing them, they interviewed me. Very inquiring. Even little children, I sit on Shabbos night, on late Shabbos, Friday night, and the little kid tell me, can I also be a journalist? Can I get a press card? Tell me, if you are a journalist, can you interview kings and prime ministers? It's like so all the time they have questions. I never encountered it in any other community. It was like such an inquiring mind. It was amazing. They have questions all the time. Tell me this, tell me this, tell me this, tell me that. I really liked it.
Did it remind you of your younger self?
To one extent, yeah, of course. I sit when I'm in Tol and I see the yeshiva bochim, study like this, and I say, okay, I used to be like that one, of course I remember that, and of course it reminds me of myself,
But in the way that they were so curious and so inquisitive about everything.
Yeah, but I know that in that world, they cherish inquiry, but then it stops when it comes to Ashkof, when it comes to Yiddishkeit, when it comes to belief, then you have to stop the questioning. And that's what I think is wrong. And then this is one of my criticism of the community. I think if you really believe that you are in the right way, if you believe that you are Ben Melech, a king's son, if you believe that your life is the best, if you think you live in a mansion, the yeshiva is in a mansion. A person who lives in a mansion, a prince who lives in a mansion, is not afraid to be encountered by a pauper, and worry that he might be tempted to be a pauper. This is what I say to them. You believe you have the truth, you believe everything. So why are you so afraid of the outside world? You are the ones who say to me that you live the most beautiful life. So why are you afraid to contact with us outside the world? So yes, and this I'm critical of them, but they are entitled to their opinion.
Did you ask them that very question?
Of course I asked. I said, Tuvia, don't you know? We can't. Sometimes they even the ones, sometimes I walk in neighborhood and the guy comes to me and he said, okay, do you ask the wrong question, the tough question? I said, what? What is the tough question? He said, I said, no, I don't know. I ask you, tell me what question should I ask the chareidi people? He said, who is God? What is God? Where is God? She said, yeah, this is a tough question. Let me ask you, who is God? What is God? Where is God? He said, don't ever mention my name. Goodbye. So it was an interesting, like a couple of minutes encounter with this guy and told the story that I have been trying to tell you for so long now. He knows he cannot ask questions, but he wants to ask them.
Right now in the news, as I mentioned, there's so much talk about integration, about, of course, the draft and conscription, chareidi conscription, and all of these very contentious topics. When you were in these communities, and of course it was before October 7th, but nonetheless, did you hear interest from people in greater integration on the inside? Did you hear people identifying more as Israeli, people, young men especially, wanting to be more involved and not able to? Like, what's the attitude that you perceived?
I'll put it this way. In the book that you have, and I guess you have the book. I have been there in October 7, and I have written in the book about October 7. It's in the book about October 7. And most of the journey was before October 7, but I was there also in October 7. And as I said, it's in the book. And what I can tell you one thing, I mentioned Toldosaran Rebbe. I asked him one time, Rebbe, if it's Shioni, a secular Jew, a Zionist, comes to the moistus, comes to the yeshiva, comes to the shul, comes to the synagogue, what will you do with him? And the Rebbe said to me, what do you mean? If he comes and tries to fight me, what can I do? Do I have a choice? But if he doesn't come to fight me, what kind of question is this? Here's an Anale Eden. We are all Jews. The most extreme of the extreme says it to you. I want to see any member in the parties now in the Knesset saying about the other ones, we are all Jews. There is so much hatred in Israel today. The right and the left and the center hate each other so much. There's so much disrespect between the people, And when will you see them coming and saying, wait a second, We are all Jews. We blame the charedim for everything. But do we outside talk like this? Wir sind alle Eden. About the conscriptions, I mean, for over 75 years, Israeli leaders of the various political parties have said to the charedim, you don't have to serve in the army. Not only you don't have to serve in the army, I'll pay you money not to serve in the army. Millions and billions. Even the present Israeli government does it. So everybody is now talking about conscript. It's the media. By the end of the day, the charedim have been told for so many years, for decades, that you don't have to serve in the army. Not only you don't have to serve in the army, they are getting paid not to serve in the army. That's what the society has told them up to now. Now the media is jumping on them. Okay, I can promise you one thing. If the present government falls and another government, central left government, takes shape, they'll do the same thing with the charedim as this government does. You know, they'll tell them, you don't have to serve. And here you have 3 מיליארד, 4 מיליארד, 3 billions, 4 billions. How much do you need? And that's the history of Israel. The parties themselves, the secular parties, rarely thought of the idea, let's join together, not make a coalition with the charedim, and then tell the charedim you have to serve in the army. No, they don't want to join together. They hate each other so much. So they all, if it's from the right and the left, they all try to make a coalition with the charedim instead of joining together the non-religious. That's the way it is. That's Israeli politics. So I know everybody's talking about conscript now, but the fault that there's no conscript is not the charedim. The charedim did not start, standing there and say, we're not going to serve in the army, kill us. Some extremists say that, but in general, this is not. They have been told they don't have to serve. Is it right? No. Is it wrong? Yes. But who is in charge of it? We are being hypocrite and blame it on the charedim. This is the various Israeli parties, political parties, who have told the charedim, we don't need you.
But do you think there are people in the community, are you hearing from them that they want to be more involved, either in the army or just being more involved in Israeli society at large?
I mean, they are involved in Israeli society. I mean, are you kidding me? They are very involved in Israeli society. The fact is, for example, I was there and I was treated the best way possible. You can get it by somebody who's not involved in the society. They know I'm not religious, as I said to you. Are they involved? Of course they're involved in their way. On October 7th, they went after the Shabbat, they were with loudspeakers on the street. Ovinu Shebashamayim Rachem Aleinu, our Father in heaven, have mercy on us. And they called on the people to come and to pray for the injured, for those who have been abducted, for the hostages, for the memory of those who died. As I said, there is an Eden, even though the ones who in the south over there next to Gaza, they knew are all secular, non-religious, pro-Palestinians. I mean, this is the absurdity of all this. So, yes. So they are involved in their way. They think that they help the situation by praying. You might not believe it. Yitzchak and Moshe not believe it. They believe it. Should they serve in the army? Look, I told you, I didn't even drive a bicycle when I was chareidi. Some of them do these days, but many of them don't drive bicycles. Many of them don't know anything. They don't know even how to swim. People who don't go to sports clubs. And you want them now to go to the army and run with 10-kilo weapons, shooting machines on the mountains of the, in the Jordan, it's like, wherever it is, that's what in the Negev, driving in extreme heat, which run and do jogging and do God knows what. They don't even know, they can't even handle a pistol. What do you want them to do? I mean, I know for me, it was not easy. All of a sudden, I have to, all these physical activities. So I remember I was the guy, came from the Shiva world. And every morning we had to do jogging for 30 minutes just to start the day, not talking about all the jogging. So, and they count you before the jogging, and then they count you come back. So they count us. I was together with them. They counted us. They counted me. Then they started running, started jogging. I went to buy 2 wafers and a Diet Coke or Coca-Cola, and I drank. And when they came back and they counted again, I was there again. I didn't jog. The officer, thank God, never caught me. It's like, how do you expect me? I mean, come from the yeshiva or to start jogging, to start all these things. You don't even know how to deal with this because you have never done sports. Most of them don't do that. They don't go to sports clubs. So the whole system has to be different in order to, it's not easy. It's really not easy.
What do you see as the most important takeaway that non-chareidi society, or at least secular society in Israel, can take from the charedim?
It's not the Haredi the society in general, the Jewish society, and also the international writers who write about the Haredim, in such a better way, to realize that they're human beings like us. We are not better than them. They are human beings. Under the shtreimel, under everything, they have the same body as we do. When it's very hot, they are thirsty. When they don't eat for a long time, they are hungry. When they don't sleep, they are tired, just like us. If you prick us, like the old Shakespeare thing, something like, if you hurt us, it's like, and they have a belief system, just like every one of them who claims to have a belief system in the whatever world it is. They have a belief system, and actually, they are very nice people.
But are there lessons that the rest of Israeli society can take from them?
Yes. The unity between them. To show you how a community can live, helping each other financially, emotionally, in every which way. It's amazing. To see, it's very tough to have a family with 2 children and 1 child who terrorize you day and night, like in the modern society. And now you can have 12 children and you're so quiet. When I come to visit a family with 1 child or 2, that child or 2 are terror makers, are terrorists. Everything in the house is to go according to them. They are the kings, they are the queens, everything, and they scream and they loud, and the parents have to. Where you come over there, you have 10 children, and you come Friday night, and they all stand, say a good Shabbos nicely. The 6-year-old takes the 3-year-old, goes spazieren, it's like, the 4-year-old goes, to the store to buy milk, whatever it is, meat. He can do it at 4. Can you believe it, how independent those people are? At 4. He doesn't need Papa and Mama to be behind him and to be and spoil him all the time. He's spoiled enough by his brothers and sisters. They have enough. And to see the happiness in the community, to hear the sounds of children, see them play, see them have a wonderful life and they enjoy it. You go to Tel Aviv, and if you already find a couple walking on the street, usually they walk with a dog. Here in Upper East Side, they are not even men and women. They're just like individuals with their dogs walking all day long. They just walk with dogs. They cannot contact. I live here for God knows many years, here in the Upper East Side of Manhattan, and I don't know who lives across the streets from me. I have no idea. Who is the next house? Who are the people who live there? I have no clue. No clue. In Mea She'arim, after 2-3 weeks, and everybody is, how you doing? Hagetin Shabbos, Reb Tuvia. I mean, they already sing for you on the streets. Everybody knows you. Everybody welcomes you. Everybody asks, do you need something? Did you have already breakfast? Should I invite you? I mean, it's paradise. We think here in the progressive New York or in paradise now, we are in a big broch. Even the Jewish community here. The Jewish community is like, you go to a shul and it's like, oh God, everybody is a foreigner. Everybody. You can go there a few times and you're still the foreigners. Maximum at the end of the service, you can do good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you very much. With this coldness, I can put in my Diet Coke. It's ice. Your expression is ice, my dear friend. You can call yourself Orthodox or Ultra-Orthodox. I don't care. You go here to a shul. I'm sorry. I mean, it's like there's no pleasure in it. Here in America, there is no pleasure. Here in New York, it's a Jewish town. There's hardly a pleasure here. In Manhattan, beautiful Manhattan. It's like the people are ice. God in heaven, if you need any favor from anybody, oh God, forget it. Forget it. I have no time. I have to go. I have an appointment. Sorry. Call me up. Nothing. Agonish mitanisht. The only ones with energies are Rebbeinu Shloilom, Jewish Voice for Peace. You know, they have some energies. The rest of us are like, God, we are dead. And you go to Mea She'arim, it's Mechaya. It's beautiful. And you'll see it all in the book.
Tuvia Tenenbom, thank you so much for sharing your story. And we will link to the book in the show notes. And very excited to read it and for our audience as well to read it.
Thank you so much.